Hey guys, Kevin Ray with UTV Driver. We're here at Windrock today on Trail 22, and we're going to do a ride along with Yamaha's brand new RMAX2 1000 limited edition. I'll walk you around real quick and then we'll go for a ride. So on the front you get a winch and skid plate included. All lighting is LED on this unit. Limited edition comes with this rad Yamaha blue color. You get limited edition two-tone polished aluminum wheels. I don't know if you can see that. You get IQS Fox suspension front and rear, which is controlled from the dash right there. Rock sliders are included. Yamaha will sell you covers, aluminum covers for those. Coming around back, you get a standard 2-inch hitch. Little 2,000 pounds. And a hydraulic lift bed with the tailgate. The cargo box is an accessory that Yamaha offers. And the bed does dump right there with that handle. Seat belts are included with adjustable ratcheting systems. Coming inside, shoulder restraint, nice bolstered seats, Wolverine, embroidered across the back, 4-wheel drive, diff lock. That's the front diff lock. No headlights and brights. You get a nice touchscreen unit that's actually removable. You can pull it out. Magellan makes it. This whole unit pops out and you can take it with you. There's even a little camera over here. I know it's bright right now. You get all sorts of fun stuff like mapping and gauge control. The limited edition comes with, again, the ability to control the suspension, the Fox suspension. 3 settings: comfort, medium, and firm. You can shift that on the fly. And you get, with the limited edition, an included stereo, SSV Works stereo. Let's see, you get cigarette lighter, some auxiliary ends down here, USB charger, and a decent sized glove box. Moving to the transmission, low, high, neutral, reverse, and you do get a handbrake and a tiny little glove box. Alright, so with that in mind, what do you say we go for a spin? Alright guys, safety first. Buckle my seatbelt, got my helmet, my goggles, my gloves on. We're going to start out in 2-wheel drive. I'm going to put it in trail mode for normal throttle control. Start her up. We have previously had the XTR version of the RMAX, and this limited edition seemed to be a little bit quieter exhaust note wise, which is welcome. I'm going to turn the radio off for now. Okay, let's do it. right off the bat, talk about the engine. 999cc twin, parallel twin. As I understand it, it's brand new for Yamaha. Developed for this side-by-side specifically. I'm going to guess it produces somewhere around 100 horsepower. But Yamaha does not provide any specs. It feels good. Plenty of power, always on tap. You can spin the wheels whenever you need to. Low gear is very torquey. That power transitions through a CVT style transmission, not unlike a lot of the other side-by-sides on the market. But Yamaha has developed theirs to always be under tension, which means you're not going to slip a belt as easily, be it if you're in high gear or low gear. We're told that you can safely do a lot of easy crawling in high gear, as opposed to some other UTVs that'll just slip their belt. And it's true, we've done many hours of testing with the RMAX and have found the transmission to be pretty good, pretty awesome. Steering is electric assist. It's not like a car, but it's better than manual. When you get it bound up, it's not going to power through it like a full hydraulic system would. But it's also not going to tax you and make your wrists and hands tired on a long day's ride. Talk about the differentials real quick. The rear axle on the RMAX is always locked. It does not have a differential. It's just a ring gear out to some axles. No turf mode, no locker, nothing like that. It's just always locked. The front axle has a true electronic locker in it. So when you need extra traction, you can turn the dial and lock both front and rear axles. I have found that there are far and few between scenarios in which that's required, other than some pretty gnarly stuff. You can get yourself into some trouble with the amount of traction this thing has. Those axles turn wonderful. 30-inch tall Maxxis tires. The RMAX2, which is what we're in, as opposed to the RMAX4, which is the 4-seater, comes with 30-inch tires. The RMAX4 does not. They're just a little bit smaller on the RMAX4. Traction is great. Tires do really well on a variety of surfaces. We're still in two-wheel drive, and I've got plenty of traction. So the reason why we picked Trail 22 to do this is because it has a lot of different kinds of terrain, a lot of different ways to test a unit in a short amount of time. We don't want to bore you guys. This first section, right at the beginning, is very flowy. Honestly, you could carry a lot of speed through here if it was closed off. Right now we're doing about 12 miles an hour. So I've got the Fox IQS suspension in comfort mode right now. Let's talk a little bit about that. On the limited edition, you get a push button in the cab. Call me lazy, but I love it. I can shift it on the fly depending on what kind of terrain I see ahead. And for normal driving like this, normal trail crawling, if you will, I just leave it in comfort mode so my spine doesn't try to kill me at the end of the day. Let's get some speed right here. Good example of a hill climb in this thing. That was in two-wheel drive, and it just doesn't care. It just goes. Lots of torque. Plenty of torque to get you up anything that you would normally want to get up. Right now I'm in trail mode. Trail mode is the ECU mode where the throttle is normal, at its normal state, we'll call it. It's predictable. If I press the gas, there's really no delay in engine power output. I can get a little bit of power when I need it, but it's also not jerky. It's not tossing me around. Let me angle the camera down a little bit more here. I'm going to switch it into crawl mode. Crawl mode tells the onboard computer to dumb the throttle inputs, kind of retards them a little bit. So when I slap the throttle, there's actually a little delay. Now it's not limiting power. You still have full access to the motor's ability to push the tires. It just smooths out my inputs, which is fantastic on rocky technical sections of trail. When you're hitting big bumps, or when you're going over baby heads like a boulder field, that in normal situations that'll transfer to your foot, and your foot will transfer that into the accelerator pedal, and that results in a feedback loop, which is something like that. And on really aggressive side-by-sides that have very sharp throttle response, it can get downright uncomfortable. So I'm going to pop it into sport mode, which is the opposite. So now I have direct, unaltered control over the throttle butterfly and the motor. So if I barely touch the accelerator pedal, the motor's going to rev. I'm going to get instant response. And what that translates to in the real world is a very sporty feel. I mean, you can just throw this sucker around like it's nothing. Instant throttle response. Throw the tail end around. It's I don't want to use the word violent, but it's approaching violent. I could see its place maybe out west in a more open setting, or if you were, using it on a race day. But for normal trail crawling, it's almost a little too much unless you really know what you're doing. So we'll go hop back into trail mode, do a little jump. What's fun about the D modes, the drive modes as Yamaha calls them, the sport, trail, and crawl, is that you can shift on the fly. Now it's not going to take effect until you let your foot up completely. So you can change it from crawl to trail. And then the next time you let off the throttle, it'll switch for you. And then you'll be in that new D mode the next time you press the throttle. Really cool. We all love that feature here at UTV Driver. It's one of our favorite features on the RMAX. A lot of times we just keep it in crawl mode. You can hear the engine settle down. It's numbing my throttle inputs, and honestly, it makes it easier, a little more comfortable to drive this thing over long distances, especially if you're trying to talk to a passenger. Fuel capacity on the RMAX2 1000 is going to be 9.2 gallons. In the months that we've been testing these units, we've never even come close to running out of fuel after a full day's ride. I'm not sure of the actual fuel economy. Yamaha doesn't state it. We've never been able to successfully record it, but I can say that it's good enough to do a hard day's ride, not worry about it, and make it back to camp. We've done over 100 miles on a tank before. The RMAX weighs in right around 1,800 pounds. I think the figure's around 1,880 pounds, 1,884 pounds, something like that. It's not light. A true sport machine would be quite a bit lighter, but you've also got the strength and durability baked into the machine to tow 2,000 pounds, haul stuff around in the bed. I think it strikes a good balance. You certainly do not feel the weight when you're driving around, and it feels several hundred pounds lighter than it should. Price on the RMAX is right around $23,000, $23,800 for the limited edition that we're in right now. All right, so I'm gonna switch it into crawl mode here to help reduce some of that feedback from all these little baby rocks. Gosh, it works so well. Just gently crawl over them. I can feel my foot moving around. But it doesn't translate into the motor revving because the ECU is smart enough to know how stupid I am. Alright, a little creek crossing. Nice little rocky climb up. So let's talk about the dash real quick. In front of me, I've got all the things that a driver would need to know about at a quick glance. Speedometer, fuel, drive mode. Am I in four-wheel drive, two-wheel drive? High, low. It's got an odometer, it's got a tripometer, it's got a clock. And then it's got your suspension setting, whether you're in comfort, medium, or firm. In the center is our Adventure Pro unit. That's going to handle GPS and the visual gauges. It also does selfies and waypoints, GPS tracking, all that fun stuff. It's kind of redundant, but I really like the Adventure Pro in that you can track where you go. All right, so this is one of the main features on Trail 22. There's a creek that runs through the trail, and it's all smooth, algae covered rock. I'm going to kick it into 4-wheel drive, and then I'm going to lock the front differential. We're going to place the D mode into trail, or I'm sorry, we're going to place it into crawl so we can go nice and slow. And then we're going to shift into low gear for the first time. Let's do some rock crawling. I don't think it's going to translate very well through the GoPro, but these boulders are probably the size of kitchen tables, small kitchen tables, or maybe pub tables. And the RMAX is just going to roll right over them like it's nothing. So I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to disengage our front differential. We don't need that anymore. We'll climb up the rest of this boulder field. The suspension on this RMAX is just phenomenal. Over 14 inches of travel in the front, 16 inches in the rear. It did the best so far on our RTI ramp scores. This thing just has gobs of flex and articulation. I'm going to switch back to high gear now that we're back on the main trail through the boulders. Switch it into firm. Throw the Fox suspension, the Fox IQS suspension into firm, just to see how it feels. And it is definitely more firm. There's a clear delineation between the settings, the valve settings on this suspension. And I think I'm going to leave it in comfort mode for this. Go back into low gear. Still in 4-wheel drive. Still in crawl mode. Make it up this hill. So I'm going to pop it back into high gear. Let's go trail mode. Pick up the pace a little bit. It's hard to believe that the RMAX has a bed on it, a hydraulic assisted dumping bed on it. Being that you can carry so much speed on a trail like this. Got to be careful because my camera gear is actually in the bed. Oh, let's switch to low gear so we don't burn anything up. Let's take the hard line. The underbody of the RMAX does have full protection. It's aluminum skid plate up front, which is standard on the limited edition. But on the base model in the XTR, you won't get any front protection. Oh, a snake. Hi, buddy. And then they all get plastic underpinnings, so you've got a flat base to the frame that you can just slide over obstacles with. Yamaha does offer control arm skid plates in the aftermarket. Has a ton of different kinds of skid plates as well. But for the most part, we've not had any issues. It seems to do pretty well in stock form. This is what I'm talking about, feedback loop. I'll put it in sport mode and you can see what I'm talking about. Every time you hit a little rock, your foot's motion is going to translate into making the motor rev, and you switch it into crawl mode and it tames it right down. It's just a more linear torque curve from the motor, which translates to better traction, and that's what you want, better traction. Crawl mode, low gear, 4-wheel drive, do a little rock crawling. This little RMAX, man, it's just a beast. Shouldn't be as good as it is, but we're happy about it. Another thing that we really like about the RMAX, we've not had the base model, but I can confirm that the RMAX XTR and now the limited edition come with rear view mirrors. Something to be able to see the guy behind you. You know, is your buddy keeping up? Did you lose him? Is there traffic coming up behind you that's faster and needs to get by you? All sorts of reasons to have a mirror. In my opinion, it's a safety concern. I think every unit should have at least a rear view mirror. Big thank you to Yamaha for including that. Ooh, big jump. So why buy the RMAX 1000 limited edition? Well, it's your best bang for your buck. You're gonna get a ton of factory accessories with it. The winch, the worn winch, 4,500 pound worn winch, your front skid plate. You're gonna get your stereo. You're gonna get your IQS Fox suspension with in-cab controls. And you're gonna get the cool blue paint job. It's not that much more than the XTR, which is also a fantastic unit. So I think if you've got the coin, it's definitely worth buying, assuming you can find one. All right, we got another rock field, so we're gonna go low gear, crawl mode. Let's see if we can do this in one pass. Sometimes I can get it, sometimes I can't. It's pretty dry today, so there's plenty of traction. Yeah, we're good. This is the kind of performance you get with a UTV. Just aim it and go. The RMAX is no exception. Thing is just so capable. Pop it back into trail mode, switch back to high gear. Oh shoot, let's go sport mode. got the Fox suspension set to firm. Your carrying speed, leverage on the suspension amplified. So it tends to bottom out a lot in comfort mode. Back to crawl mode. And that concludes our ride down Trail 22 at Windrock. Alright guys, that wraps up our trip down Trail 22 at Windrock OHV Park in Oliver Springs, Tennessee. This week we had the Yamaha RMAX2 1000 Limited Edition. This is the 2021 model. And it was a pleasure. We really like this unit, and we think you will too. For full specs and any other questions, hit up utbdriver.com or send us a message on our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.